Guys, they are putting up these AI data centers everywhere. It's not just Memphis. And if you haven't seen, there was a story about how the center in Memphis is literally poisoning people. I think it's like nitrogen. Hold on, I have to look it up. Yes, it's nitrogen oxides. And listen to what short-term exposure to nitrogen oxides can cause. Irritation to the eye, nose, throat, leading to coughing, shortness of breath, and nausea, aggravated respiratory conditions, pulmonary edema, headaches, fatigue, dizziness. Development of asthma is a long-term exposure side effect, increased respiratory infections, so basically heightened vulnerability to respiratory illnesses, permanent lung damage, and cardiovascular effects. Some studies suggest links between long-term exposure and increased risk of heart disease. So we were talking about maybe looking at Huntsville, Alabama, and it just popped in my head. I was like, I wonder if they got an AI data center down there. Surely enough, they do. I think that one's Facebook. So there's all these different companies, and basically as demand is growing for AI, they just keep propping up these data centers all over the United States, and I'm sure elsewhere in the world too. LA, I think, has 2. So this just confirms something that God put on my spirit a few years ago, that we really need to be moving out of these big cities. I do believe that there's going to be consequences to staying in these cities and staying in the world. In the Bible, like throughout the Old Testament, basically God just gave people over to what they chose to worship. Like they chose to worship false gods, and he was like, cool, they literally hate you. I told you not to, but okay, you have free will. I'm not gonna force you. But a lot of the consequences and the judgment that they experienced was a result of them worshiping these false gods that literally didn't like them. And I was reading Jeremiah last night, and there's this one verse, and as I was reading it, I'm sorry, my pets are like wrestling in the background. As I was reading it, I was like, Jesus, you sound kind of narcissistic here. Like, I know that you're not, but the verse said something like, obey me and everything will be okay, and we can live, you can live in peace and harmony. And I felt like he said, okay, read it again. And so basically, I believe that the narcissistic spirit is one and the same with the devil, and that he imitates everything God does, and he mocks God. So I'm reading it and I'm like, this sounds kind of narcissistic, but if you really think about it, God's desires for you are only good. They've only ever been good. He is love. Everything about him is pure and good and righteous. His plans for us are to prosper and not to harm us. On the other hand, there is the devil and his army, and they do not have pure desires or good desires for us. So, like, he basically says, hey, like, and I think about it with my dog. Like, I give my dog, boundaries, or with a child, like, you give your child boundaries, right, that they're supposed to follow, and then everything's good. But if they go outside of those boundaries, which are literally supposed to protect them and supposed to be for their health and well-being, then there's consequences. That doesn't make me a bad parent for telling my dog not to go in Henry, my cat's, litter box and eat his poop out of it. I'm not a bad mom for telling him not to do that, and for like getting upset when he does do it, like, and telling him no. I'm not a bad parent for that, right? God isn't a bad parent when he says no, enough is enough, for us doing things that are hurting each other, hurting ourselves, and hurting the earth. But on the other hand, so a narcissistic spirit would say, well, do everything to make me happy and everything will be okay. But if you go outside of what I want, right? So they're trying to basically be God. And it was just like triggering reading that line. But I say all that to say, God only has good desires for us, but there is a spiritual war right now for our energy, our loyalty, our attention, for our very souls. And we need to understand that, like, we have to stop. They are putting this up. They're putting these up because we're demanding it. It's like the forbidden fruit. They offer it to us, and oh, look, it can do all this. It can answer all your questions. It can write all your essays. It can make you money. well, every single question sent to AI takes up 16 ounces of water, right? It's draining water in areas where water is already scarce. It's poisoning the air, it's poisoning the land. And I just have to ask you guys, how long do you think, if God is a righteous God, how long do you think he is going to put up with this foolishness? He can't put up with it forever. And if people won't repent, like, there's consequences to this. You think that you think that AI loves you, you think that it's your friend. It's literally poisoning people right now as we speak. Not to mention, well, guys, we have got to look at this from the bigger picture and get out of this limited worldview where we're just focused on ourselves and what we can do to make a quick buck or to answer our immediate question. And we have to stop and slow down and turn to God if we want to get out of this mess that, guys, like, I don't even know if there's going to be a place where they won't have these AI data centers, because it's becoming so widespread. And this isn't to scare you, but it is to try to wake you up and push you closer to God.